Hello, welcome back to David Galata, Book Dreamer. I'm David Galata, and I'm dreaming my books. And this week, our topic is making science fiction relatable. This is advice for writers. And, it feels funny giving advice to writers, but at this point, I think I do have a few things to say from my own experiences. Uh, at this point, I'm up to 9 books that have been published. So I just want to share a few things about making science fiction relatable to an audience. And this is something that I see all the time in science fiction where it's relatable, but only to a certain audience, like a very small audience. It's why I don't really do the young adult kind of stuff, because that is for a very specific audience. So my books are not written with a young audience in mind. It's written with human beings in mind. Um, there have been science fiction books that were written with only scientists in mind or mathematicians. Not everyone is a scientist. Not everyone's a mathematician or a biologist or an astronomer. You have a wide variety of people who are reading your science fiction novel. And so you need to make sure that there are relatable elements in your book, even if most of it is about, say, mathematics or astronomy or biology. And it can be, and that's fine. There's no problem with having um, a book of science fiction that is very focused on, say, mathematics, or focused on symbolism, or focused on, you know, um, technology, engineering, terraforming. That's fine. Having those topics there is great, but sometimes I think people get lost with what their setting is. And so they lose sight of the story. And how you lose sight of the story, the easiest is by not fully developing your characters. Remember, your entire audience are human beings. Until we find some other form of life that reads books, that is your audience. Your audience is the human being. And so your book about, say, terraforming or mathematics has to be in some way relatable to the human being that's reading it. Now, I'm not saying that textbooks should be written this way, because that's a whole different kettle of fish. That's something very, very different. There you have students who are learning about things. If you're writing nonfiction, you don't have to worry about this as much. You have to be clear. You have to be um, able to present the material in a way that is easy to remember, or in a way that is entertaining so it stays in the mind. Now, these are all different issues. But when it comes to science fiction, you have to have relatable characters. And, in some ways, this goes with what I was saying last week, where last week I was talking about not being too topical with current events if you want your science fiction book to last throughout the ages. But when we are looking at being relatable, it means you need to have characters, human characters, or human-like characters. They don't have to actually be human, but they have to be written in such a way that your audience can relate to them. For example, you could write an entire book from the point of view of a dog, and anyone who has ever had a dog as a pet, and make sure that you have had at least one dog as a pet for many, many years before you even think about writing something like this, because otherwise you will fail. Uh, I tend to put cats in my books. I like cats. I have lived with cats for most of my life. I enjoy the presence and company of cats, and I relate to them. And so I put that in my books. I would not write as well if I had a character who, say, was um, an octopus. I don't know them as well. I might be able to do an okay job with it. I might be able to make an amusing character or an interesting character or, you know, um, an odd character, but they're going to suffer a loss of relatability with the audience because we're not mollusks. So when you have characters in your books, make sure that they're very complete characters. You're already throwing your audience into the unknown. Okay, science fiction is known for this. It speculates on technology and scientific discoveries, and possibilities and probabilities, and it reaches further than, say, a professional scientist would be willing to say, oh yes, this is going to be possible in 100 years. They're not really comfortable with that for the most part. Most of them are not. Every now and then you get some that are, but most of them are not because they know. They know they don't know, and you don't either. So you're already putting your audience into an unusual setting, say a colony on an alien world, or in a space station that is being used for a variety of different alien species and humanity is part of it, or in a spaceship, where they have grown up all their life. These are very unusual environments. Or, a future where civilization has collapsed, say, one, two, three, even four times. Again, we're going to go with Gene Wolfe there in the book of the Lost Sun. Was it Lost Sun? The Books of Earth, URTH. Uh, he throws you into cultures and settings that are not familiar. Frank Herbert did the same thing, as did Isaac Asimov, and Larry Niven was very well known for having very interesting settings, including one where the Earth revolved around Jupiter. It orbited Jupiter. It got moved. So you have an unusual setting, and that is going to be enough to make your reader possibly struggle a little bit with relating to the setting. So they're going to cling to the characters. That's who they're going to cling to. They're going to cling to your characters. They're going to cling to how well you represent people in your work. They become the ambassadors for your ideas in science fiction. They become the go-betweens between your ideas about AIs and people's current ideas about AIs. Now, your ideas may be very, very different from everybody else's. Uh, I kind of feel like I'm in that category. Um, and yet there are other people where, they want to expand upon the whole AIs will bring the doom of humanity. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, you're still going to need human characters. You're still going to need something that's familiar in that novel to help people hold on to what they're reading. It could be cultural things. It can be animals, like I was saying, cats, dogs, goldfish, a whole science fiction tale told from the point of view of a goldfish. That might be interesting. Uh, But again, having relatable characters and having relatable storylines and plot lines is going to be vital. You want to make a plot line that people are going to care about, that they're going to want to, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh my goodness, I really care about this. I really care about that. You don't want to lose that. And if you get lost in the setting, it's like you get lost in the weeds. You got to pull back, and you have to make sure that what you're writing is still relatable to the audience. For me, my audience I am just figuring as the general public. I don't have any particular audience in mind other than the average person who likes to pick up a science fiction novel. Uh, they're going to want some interesting things to ponder. They're going to want some engineering wonders. They're going to want some tech stuff, but they're also going to want characters who are cool. They're going to want characters that they care about. They're going to want characters that they feel for, or characters they hate. There's nothing like a great villain. Although, you could make the hero of a book someone that people hate. That also can be effective. These are ways of reaching out to the audience and pulling them into the thought experiment that science fiction is so that they participate in it. You want your readers participating. You don't want them just passively reading going, "Oh, okay, I guess that was interesting." No, you want them really involved. You want them invested, which means they are mentally participating in the novel, and that means something. So you have to make certain aspects of your books relatable to your audience. Now, if you have a specific audience in mind, good. That's great, because those are the people who are going to buy the book. Those are the people who are going to enjoy it and talk about it. But you're also going to have to really cater to that audience and what their expectations are. General audience, not quite as much, because with a general audience, there's going to be some give and take. You're going to get people like, well, I didn't like that character, but I really enjoyed this one. You're going to have other people go, oh, I disagree. I thought the character you hate is, I love them. And that's fine. You want some of that. As long as there is something in there for people to grasp onto while they're in this strange setting and in this unusual situation that you have placed your characters in, they're going to get lost. They're going to be like, why am I reading this? Why am I reading this book that may as well be a textbook about whatever the subject matter is, as opposed to a story? Stories have relatable elements in them. There's emotions, there's love, there's hate, there's loyalty, there's betrayal, there's trust, there's, you know, distancing. There's all kinds of things that are going on. You have people interacting, or intelligent beings interacting in ways that your audience may find very relatable and relevant to themselves. With human beings, you can guarantee there's going to be politics in there. Absolutely. It doesn't matter how long you go into the past, there's politics. Okay. There's been politics since we started walking. There's politics in actually most mammalian cultures have some form of politics. Ask a lion pride sometime and you'll see what I mean. Okay. You don't even have to be human, and there's politics involved. Okay. Maybe very local, maybe very small and tribal, but it's there. All right. So there's going to be some politics. Um, and you can really go kind of crazy with that. Like Ben Bova, his work tends to be extremely political. He puts a lot of politics into his books in more unusual settings, so though he does tend to be a little more near future sci-fi than far future sci-fi, depending on your definitions. Um, so the politics that he talks about makes a lot of sense in the settings that they're in, although some of his stuff has kind of lost a few elements over time. And that's because he really was relying on current political thinking. He was topical. So you want things to be relatable, though. You want characters that people fall in love with. You want settings that are wondrous. You want to be able to guide them through the book with someone or something that they can relate to. So that would be my advice for anyone who is writing science fiction. And, not for nothing, the same thing goes for fantasy. You need at least one element in your fantasy to act as an ambassador for your reader, or your reader may get very lost in the details. Um, I don't read a lot of fantasy. I have read fantasy. I do enjoy fantasy. Um, I love the works of Tolkien. I love the works of Michael Moorcock. You know, I do like my fantasy books. I like Tawny Nelson. Uh, but if your world is so fantastical that it's even hard to write, that means that's a clue for you to get something more relatable in there to act as a go-between, to act as that ambassador for your readers so they can sit back, relax, and enjoy your book and relate to it and really care. So this is just a few words of advice. I could probably go on about this topic for the next hour or two, but I'm not going to do that to you. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for those who got it this far. Thank you very much. You guys are great. Please do subscribe and toss a like there and let me know what you think. I do respond to comments, so I'd like to see a few. So hopefully I will see you all next week with a new topic. In the meantime, happy reading, everyone.